My name's Jen Underwood. I'm disabled. I have complex regional pain syndrome. I have had that for 25 years. Since being disabled, I've become a bit of a campaigner. In, I think, around 2014, 15, all of a sudden Gwynedd Council decided to change the traffic flow of the high street and make the high street in Bangor pedestrianised. There was very, very little consultation and bare minimum of information about what was happening, and it just happened. A few people noticed that they could no longer get onto the high street with their blue badges, drive onto the high street as disabled people to try to do their shopping and whatever they wanted to do on the high street. So a few letters were written to the paper, and I then wrote to the paper myself asking for the contact for these people who obviously were annoyed enough to write into the paper. So we found some people and we got together. We called ourselves GABOA, which was Give Us Back Our Access, and decided firstly to write to the council and say that we felt that we were discriminated against and we didn't have the access that we used to have. Not only had they blocked the access to the high street entirely, they'd taken away lots of blue badge spaces that were dotted around the town that were fairly close, that might help to access the high street. So we got Vin West from Arvon Access involved, who is a mine of information and helped us greatly with the kind of laws that we would need to use, if things didn't go the way we wanted them. So there were a group of us who got together. We wrote to the council and were completely and utterly rebutted. They weren't going to change their mind or anything. So then we decided we had a campaign on our hands. So we got in touch with councillors, we got in touch with local MPs, the AMs, Senate members as they are now, and the press. And we started. We started with go slows, so we all turned up at the high street and on our scooters and proceeded up the high street, which is quite long, and did that for publicity. We contacted Disability Wales to help our plight and to find out more again about our rights. Also the Equality Human Rights Commission, we got them involved. And then we started, we did a survey of all the shopkeepers. So I trundled along on my scooter and went into every single shop that I could get into. Some of them are not accessible, of course. And we asked what they thought about the fact that disabled people could no longer get onto the high street. And 99% were with us. So we made a nice little table of our findings, and we sent that to the council. We also did a petition and sent that to the council. We asked for an equality impact assessment, and there wasn't one. They had they scrabbled one together, but it was post work. So we decided that they ought to do an equality impact assessment according to their public duty. And the fight was absolutely incredible. They just did not want to budge. So the kind of laws that we used were the Equality Act 2010, the UN Convention of Rights of Disabled People, which was brought into the UK in 2009, the Public Sector Equality Duty, which of course they failed greatly on, which was 2011, and the European Convention on Human Rights, the Council of Europe. That needs to be pointed out because this is not an EU law, it's the Council of Europe, and so we can still use that later on when unfortunately we leave Europe. Also the Social Services and Wellbeing Act 2014 is a useful act to use. So we did all that and we quoted all these laws, and we didn't really get very far until we got the Ombudsman involved. And once we started to negotiate with the Ombudsman, then I think Gwynedd Council were told that they had to do something about the discrimination that they'd imposed upon us. So we had absolute success. We were blown away because we were invited into the council and they'd made 3 proposals. We were convinced we were just going to get the worst we could, but obviously the Ombudsman had done his trick, and we got the absolute best compromise that we could have. So basically the High Street, Bangor High Street, is now open at 4:30 every evening, which only gives 1 hour access onto the High Street. However, it is then open all night, and so it gets closed at 10 o'clock in the morning. So if any disabled person with a blue badge wants to get onto the High Street, as long as they do so before 10 o'clock, they now have 3 hours where they can park and move about on the High Street. So that's the usual time. So we got a complete win there, absolutely huge. We went from no hours to 4 hours shopping time or whatever. There's other things you can do on the High Street. There's the chemists, there's dentists, there's cafes that people might want to use, socialising. So we were very, very pleased with what we managed to get, but very, very disappointed that it was such a long and drawn out process. It took 2.5 to 3 years in total, a lot of work, a huge amount of work, and disabled people do not need this extra work. What would be nice would be to have our access granted as a given and not have to fight for our rights constantly. And people might be aware, or should be aware, that having easy access is not only good for disabled people, it's good for everybody. It's good for people with children, it's good for people who are not disabled but unsteady maybe. In terms of the laws, now we also have the Future and Wellbeing law in Wales, which could also be used to help. It's really important that people understand their rights and know their rights and know that they can win. You can get a win, but you've got to be determined and you've got to fight.